That chirping coming from you, Mr. Cline?
It might be my smoke detector.
That's what it sounded like. Yeah.
It's what it sounded like to me too. Can you,
Change that battery.
before we go live on this, can you mute yourself? And then if you have to say something, unmute yourself. It's hurting my ears.
I will try to. Yes, sir.
Thank
Too
you.
late. We're already live.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Yeah, he's muted. Okay. Then let's be on the record in case number 2020-CR728, captioned State of Kansas versus Corey Cline. Would the parties announce their appearances, please?
May it please the court, Your Honor, the State of Kansas appears through Assistant District Attorney Mark Brinkworth.
May it please the court, Corey Cline appears in person and by counsel Zach Anthony via the Zoom platform.
All right. We are here set down for a sentencing today. The record should reflect the last time the parties were in court was back on April 30th, at which time the defendant changed his plea from one of not guilty to guilty to count one, the possession of methamphetamine. The other charges were dismissed. The court inquired and accepted that, ordered a pre-sentence investigation, and set it for sentencing today. I received that PSI. The critical findings are as follows. The sole count of conviction is one of possession of methamphetamine. That's a severity level 5 non-person drug felony. The defendant's criminal history score was found to be that of B as in boy. That would leave him with a presumption of prison and a presumed underlying range of 32, 34, 36 months. Special rules do apply to this. That's number 10 and number 26. Number 10 being that this crime was committed while on felony bond. And number 26 is this is his third or subsequent possession conviction. If he has to do his time, he'll be eligible for up to 20% good time credit and subject to a post-release supervision duration of 12 months. If he's granted probation today, it would be for a period of 12 months to community corrections. Would also note that Senate Bill 123 evaluation was made, and due to his criminal history, Mr. Cline was not eligible for that program. With that, I would ask you first, Mr. Brinkworth, did you have an opportunity to review this pre-sentence investigation? Any additions, corrections, or challenges to those findings?
Judge, I have had that chance, and no, I don't have anything to add or correct.
Mr. Anthony, same questions?
Judge, I have reviewed the PSI with Mr. Cline. We have no challenge to the criminal history score of B or the crimes that give rise to that score. Mr. Cline and Mr. Brinkworth substituting, but I think the original parties all anticipated that he would be a B and knew of those two crimes that gave rise to being that B.
Right, I agree. So that was certainly contemplated in the plea. I will, given there are no challenges, I will adopt the findings of the PSI for today's hearing. Mr. Anthony, you did file that motion for a dispositional departure. I have reviewed the same. Would you like to be heard on that today?
Judge, just briefly, I don't need to restate the things that I sent to the court and the state, but I will say I have not known Mr. Cline all that long. I was appointed to this a little bit later in the process. And shortly after getting appointed, Mr. Cline was released from jail. And Mr. Cline has met with me several times while he's been out in the community. And he appears to be doing very well. He makes his appointments. He calls when he says he's going to call. He shows up when he says he's going to show up. He's been respectful. He's taken care of everything he needed to do. I think Mr. Cline is aware that he has a lengthy criminal history and that he will have a lengthy backup time should this court follow the plea agreement. And I think Mr. Cline is taking his responsibilities to remain free very seriously. So with all that being said, I would hope that this court would follow the plea agreement and give him an opportunity at probation.
Thank you. Mr. Brinkworth, I would hear your comments as to defendant's motion and anything else touching upon sentencing.
Judge, as you know, the parties did agree to recommend probation in this matter. I don't know if it was contemplated before, but the state would ask that he be ordered to complete a substance abuse evaluation as part of the conditions of probation and then comply with the treatment during the course of probation, Judge. Other than that, just follow the recommendations.
All right, thank you. Mr. Anthony, anything else other than what you've already told us on your motion?
No, nothing further to add, Judge.
All right. Mr. Cline, now is your opportunity to tell me anything you want me to know in mitigation of your sentence today. And remember, you're muted, so you need to unmute yourself if you wish to tell me anything.
Just that I concur that I am very adamant and serious about my liberties, my freedom, and I take it very seriously, and I'm doing the things that I need to do as in accordance to that. I have very strong ties with my grandmother, who I also help take care of her as like a home health aide, and not gainfully employed just yet, but definitely seeking employment at this time, sir.
Good.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cline. All right. Mr. Anthony, do you know any legal reason why I should not now proceed to sentencing?
No, Judge.
All right. I'm going to follow the plea agreement. There's a couple of things specifically in the motion and the comments of defense counsel today. Frankly, many of these cases come and the only thing that they say is, you know, he waived his trial, he entered into a plea and saved the state the expense and trouble of trying the case. He admitted his wrongdoing. And those are all substantial and compelling reasons, and they are in this case too. But I would also note for the record that the crimes that make Mr. Cline the criminal history be that he is, and the presumption of prison that exists are very old crimes. Again, I don't know. There are the idea behind the sentencing guidelines is that somebody who has a history of violent or person felonies is more of a danger and therefore should be handled with more severity. But I would note that none of those things seem to apply to Mr. Cline, at least for a decade and a half or so. So I have no problem finding that those are all substantial and compelling reasons for departure from the sentencing guidelines. Therefore, Mr. Cline will be sentenced to a period of 34 months in the Department of Corrections. If he has to do that time, he'll be eligible for up to 20% good time credit and subject to 12 months of post-release supervision. His application for probation today is considered and it is granted to community corrections for 12 months. One of the specific terms of probation shall be that he obtain a substance abuse evaluation if he hasn't already done so, and follow the recommendations of that evaluation. All right. Let's talk about some costs and fees. Mr. Cline says he's seeking employment, and I'm sure that he'll be able to get that. It seems to me that what Mr. Cline puts his mind to, he accomplishes. So I don't have any doubt that he'll be able to get employment here in the near future, particularly with the environment as it is right now for employees. So I'm going to assess the court costs and supervision fee. It says KBI database fee is required, but I want to look at what Mr. Cline's last felony conviction in Kansas was in 20. Yes.
I'm sorry. There doesn't seem to be any way that's correct.
Yeah, I'm looking at a, let's see, the last felony was in 2015 in Kansas. And that was a possession case. So we were clearly obtaining DNA samples by that time. So I am comfortable that he is in the database and does not need to pay that fee. So what we're looking at is court costs, supervision fee. Mr. Anthony, do you know what your attorney fees are?
Judge, I don't have a up-to-date figure because I always estimate for the sentencing, but I would imagine it looks like it's going to be around $350.
All right. I think that's Yeah,
Judge, I
go ahead.
apologize. I don't mean to interrupt you again, but
No.
I would note that I have only been involved in this here at the very tail end of this case. So there may be outstanding bills from previous counsel. I have no knowledge of those.
Right, but I don't know what those are either, and I'm not going to charge them to your client. So he will have the bids application fee of $100. I'm going to order that he pay $200 of your fee. I think that's appropriate. And the rest of it, the state will pick up. As I said, there is no database fee. So that's court cost, supervision fee, bids, and that attorney fee. Let's see, that's going to come up to about $2, $3, $4, $5, just over $500 total, if my math is correct. Mr. Cline, if I ordered you to pay that at a rate of $50 a month, that would get you paid off before your probation ended. Do you think that's something that you'll be able to do?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to order a payment plan of $50 a month. All right. Mr. Cline, as a convicted felon, it's prohibited for you to own or possess a firearm. Certain kind of deadly cutting instruments like dirks, daggers, switchblades, basically knives that could be considered deadly weapons. You have 14 days from today to appeal anything you don't like about your sentence, and you may be able to seek expungement after a period of time following successful completion of probation. Do you understand all those things?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. And certainly, have we calculated jail time credit yet?
Judge, I believe that the PSI is correct. He was in custody for quite some time during the pendency of this matter. So while I don't have a date in mind or a number of days in mind, I do think that the the September 30th to April 7th, Judge, I believe is correct.
Okay, he'll be credited with that jail time credit. All right. Anything that I failed to cover today, Mr. Brinkworth?
Judge, that would be 190 days of credit for the
Great.
jail credit. And then the actual, I quickly used a calculator and I believe it's $613 that's owed for the total on that.
Okay. All right. Well, that should get him off almost exactly on time. So I don't want to overburden him with a large payment, especially while he's looking for work. All right. Mr. Anthony, other things that I've failed to cover today?
Nothing from us, Judge.
All right. Mr. Cline, good luck to you. I think you're going to do well. You just keep doing the things you're doing, and you'll be a success. Mr. Brinkworth, was there something? Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Did you cover expungement, potential for expungement and weapons restrictions?
I did. I covered all that. Yeah, I did weapons and right to appeal and expungement. All right.
And
Great.
Judge, before we depart, Mr. Cline has been ordered to report to community corrections at some given time, or does he call? It's been a few days since I've done one of these Zooms.
Let me stop the live stream here, and I'm going to